Hello and welcome everybody to Sunday Live with Sylvia. It is I, Sylvia, with an I, coming to you live from beautiful Eastbourne by the sea. And today, I've got a hell of a topic for us. End the nightmare of trauma. And that's a story and a half. And we'll be getting into that in a little while. But I've had really quite an amazing week. I mean, it's the things that I do, the sort of things I do, research and all those sort of things. It's just on a whole new level now, and I'm just so excited and so excited about the future, about the present, but also about the future. And don't know if there's that many people who are this excited at the moment, apart from salespeople who work for pharmaceutical companies. Hey, good morning, Bear, my darling, my dear Bear Collins from Ireland, who is stepping into being an artist. And Paul, good morning, Paul. And good morning, dear Wendy from Scotland. Yes, happy 1st of November, everybody. 1st of November 2020. This is a day which has never been before and will never come again. And it is precious and beloved as all days and all mornings are. And welcome everybody to this space where we can talk about wonderful things. And that's exciting. Good morning, Marianne. Hello, my dear. I'm feeling tingly and excited. I am. I'm energy rich. I would like to make a public statement at this point. I'm not always energy rich. I'm not always cheerful and super high in energy. If you see my live broadcast once a week, you might come to the erroneous conclusion that I'm like this all the time, but I'm actually not. I'm up and down like everybody else, and it's just that I actually really love talking to you guys and when I first started this, I was really nervous and I don't know, probably quite stiff and full of responsibility and all sorts of things. But the longer this has been going on, the more I'm looking forward to it. I'm enjoying it. It's a real opportunity to spend our half an hour or so on cool things, on things that I find interesting. The sort of things you never, ever, 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 ever hear about on mainstream media or even on Twitter or what have you. It's an awesome space. And I love sharing it with people who, are on the same page with this and who get what we're doing here. Good morning, Katrina, all the way from the Ukraine. Wow. Yeah, I said this before. If we got one person in each country, we're getting somewhere. And we might be the only person in the country who does what we do. Good morning, Ilka. And Wendy. Hello, Wendy. I don't actually know where you're from, Wendy. Solar Hawk 7. That's always puts. I'm always slightly confused as to who you are. Lucas. Hello, Lucas. Lucas, remind me where you're from, because you're from somewhere as well. Everybody is from somewhere. Yeah, and this feeling of being alone, and there's no one, there's no other energist in town. Yeah, that's, well, it's par for the course. But more we tell other people about it, and this is possibly something that I'd like to mention here. Sort of from Cornwall. Wendy Stoughton is from Cornwall, from Marazion. I don't know where that is, but it's a very, very cool name. That's a very cool name. Yeah, something that I will have to say at this point, when new people come into this or look at this and they see that I've got, like, my videos has got 30 views on YouTube, they must think, that's just crazy. They must really think I'm just this little old lady sitting here in my house and spouting nonsense. And, and this is not strictly true. It's not strictly true. I've done a few things in my life. I've helped a few people. And we have a few members in the GOE worldwide, wonderful people. Oh, St. Michael's Mount. I have visited there and had a very magical experience as well. So yeah, I think time is coming where we need to start, sharing this a bit more and talking to other people a bit more. And mercifully, to our rescue in these times of insane stress has come Dear, Dear Star Matrix, which is just such a gift. And I keep wondering as I'm looking, across my timeline here, I'm wondering whether this was sort of kept on ice deliberately to be here right now, to have come right now, and not at any other time. Because boy, we need it. Boy, 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 we need it. Okay, so while we start chatting and some people are joining us, and one person has clicked the like button, by all means, just share the live stream to your own timeline, and in case there's some other people out there who would find it interesting what we are talking about, what we are doing with emotions and with energy and with making people feel better about themselves. For a change, when the entire world, including the American Psychological Association, seem to be absolutely dead set to have us be as angry and as miserable and as outraged as you possibly could ever be. As stressed and as crazy as we could ever possibly be. There needs to be a halt to this tsunami of negativity. We need to end the nightmare of trauma, which actually is at the root of many of it. But I'll get into that later. Okay, so while we're just waiting for few more friends to join us, I am going to say that I was very, very happy this week. My research is going brilliantly. Feedback has been really amazing. Sort of the words, I'm starting to hear the words that I've waited my whole life for people to say to me. And that's exciting and really, really uplifting. And here just now, from absolute downpouring rain, the sun's just come up and is shining straight in the window. It was so grey only 10 minutes ago that I didn't bother closing the curtain. So we're going to have shifting lights throughout this video. I should have had more faith that the sun will come again. Okay, so when I'm very happy and very high and my work is going particularly well, then I have a lot of energy. And so this week I wanted to, make a little pendant. And I like making the pendants for the live streams. It gives me an excuse to do some art and show some art, which is kind of groovy. So I've made some little pendants. And instead of just one, I went into this thing, and it may have been on the night of the full moon. I'm not quite sure. I get lost in time and space in these strange days. But instead of just making one, I ended up making four. And the one that I wanted to make is the one that I'm actually wearing. It's the little tree at the top. And that sort of goes with this whole harvesting from the tree of lights, the star memories, the gathering in the harvest of our lives' work, of our lives' wisdom, this gathering in the harvest business. That is very profound. I feel that very profoundly, that this is something that has been stolen from people because of this trauma focus business, the nightmare of trauma. This has been stolen from them, that the learning and the capabilities and the powers that are all locked away in our star memories, that we haven't been allowed or misdirected to actually gather in the harvest of that. And the Tree of Lights is kind of sort of my symbol for that it's time to start gathering in the harvest. And the other three, they just sort of came along. The one with the blue and green stones on it, that is like a gold nugget from Australia, where they also find opals. I like to watch Aussie gold hunters. And I just absolutely love the fact they're going around with a little metal detector and finding large lumps of gold, or, sometimes they find opals too in the ground. And I just love that, absolutely love it. And that just came to my mind as I was making these. So I made that one. And then we've got the round one that has the energy symbols all the way around and is actually got gold in it, actual gold in it, that sort of followed on from that. And then the bottom one, the square one, is like a map of, I don't know, some wonderful land far away or something. I just love those. But it was the harvest tree that jumped. That was the one that I wanted to have this on this live stream. And that is with us today. Okay. Good morning, Roberta. Hey, we've got another person. Wonderful. I love you all, and I thank you for giving me your precious time, and that's what makes actually live streaming really exciting. Okay, right. So, let's take a deep breath in and out. Why not? There are so many things I could stand on the street corner and rant about for hours and hours and hours and hours. They really are. And oh man. But you just the nightmare of trauma. What is the nightmare of trauma? Roger Callahan wrote a book, Dr. Roger Callahan, who popularized TFT, thought field therapy, which is the precursor of EFT, emotional freedom techniques. He wrote a book with that title, And the Nightmare of Trauma. And what he meant by that is that a person who's been traumatized lives in a nightmare world. And by tapping, we can end the nightmare of trauma. So they don't, that they sort of wake up and they don't have this, wake up out of that old life and step then into a new life that is more like a happy dream or, a good dream. And that's a good thing to want. And of course, like all these things, it was based on Dr. Callahan's own life's experiences and having been traumatized and, knowing what it's like. And so he went and studied psychology in order to find a solution for this. But he didn't find it in psychology, nor in the practice of psychology. And so eventually, because he still had the same problems he had after all these years of supervision and supervision and seeing clients and so on, and there's still not really any progress there. So he started looking outside of the field of psychology for answers. And here he came across Mr. Diamond. And Mr. Diamond was tapping on meridian points whilst saying affirmations to make people feel stronger. And that had to do sort of with muscle testing and what have you. So Roger Callahan became interested in this tapping business, and which is obviously not psychology, because psychology denies the existence of the energy body, even though the name itself is supposed to be the study of the soul or the logic of the soul, which is in and of itself just hilarious if you think about it. So, yeah, I mean, the moment Roger Callahan started tapping on people, he was outside of psychology. He wasn't doing psychology anymore. He's doing something else. And found that he could help people who had PTSD flashbacks and spider phobias and fears of all sorts of things by tapping on these traumas. But here is the bigger picture. Here is the bigger picture. And this is the nightmare of trauma that we need to end. And that is the utter myopic fascination with trauma. That is the nightmare of trauma. The fact that the entire Western world has been totally brainwashed in every song, every movie, to only and ever look at trauma and use trauma to explain behavior, when trauma does not actually drive forward positive behavior. And that's the nightmare of trauma. The nightmare of trauma has led us directly into the critical theories, which are tearing our social fabric apart. Being looking for trauma, focusing on trauma, looking at everyone and everything as a reason for trauma and as a source of trauma is what has caused men and women to fight more than ever before, different orientations fighting more than ever before, racial harmony being literally destroyed, and all sorts of terrible things happening because of that nightmare of trauma. The inability, the total inability of psychology to have produced a real result or real method of dealing with people hating each other. You know, like some country A and country B have been hating each other and killing each other since the dawn of time, since as far back as they can remember. All the children are growing up with this hatred because the old trauma stories are being told over and over and over again when a guy from that country murdered somebody's cow and then it just escalated, and it has been like that for 500,000 years. This nightmare of trauma, where all that is being remembered is the trauma. And that's the nightmare of trauma that I want to end. As much as I love personal people and helping people with post-traumatic stress disorder and all the rest of it, it has gone way beyond that. It has got way beyond that. And now literally every person is somehow infected with this nightmare of trauma. And that needs to end. This is what I want to end. I want to take people back to their own personal, actual star memories, their positive memories, because that's where the wisdom is. That's where these treasures are, the treasures and riches of our lives that we haven't been allowed to harvest. It is inconceivable, but it has happened, that we've got a pile of rotting fruit in one corner and the Garden of Eden in the other. And people are going to the rotting fruit and throwing it at each other, whilst remaining starving hungry for love, for attention, for self-esteem, for self-respect, and this is really where I'm coming from this week above all else, a real understanding how their life has played out, what their life was all about, and who they really are at the end of the day. Oh man, that is so central. And this is life healing. This is life healing. I'm going to give you an personal example of something that's happened for me there. It's what everybody needs, including the people who wake up in a cold sweat because they dreamed about their personal trauma again. Everybody needs this. And the people who are super traumatized, the more traumatized you've been, the more you need this. The more you need to find your own inner strength and to have this life healing effect when you start to understand the cause and effect of your life. It is so important on the individual level, on the family level, our closest, nearest, and dearest. Our children, our parents, our forefathers. We can't afford it to look only at their worst things that they've done. We can't afford that. If we do that, we will drive ourselves ever more crazy and our own societies into apocalypse, into an absolute apocalypse. This has got to stop. We have got to stop. with the trauma. We got to stop ending the night. We got to end the nightmare of trauma and redirect people onto their high, empowered, intelligent, real humanity inside. God, that was an impassioned speech, wasn't it? Okay, right. So imagine for a moment if you were to actually, you personally, I'm talking to you personally. I care not who you are, where you're from, what your life has been like. Don't care. Don't care how old you are. The older, the better, but everybody doesn't matter. As long as you can talk and draw a little weasel on a piece of paper. Just imagine if you really felt that your life was really healed, that it really made sense, that you are somebody totally different than everybody has ever told you, that there is inside you the wisdom and the knowledge that will take you into your future in such a way that it makes you want to sing and dance. Just imagine that for a moment. It's a big promise. Yeah, I know. It's a big thing to be saying. But I also know that the staff memory thing is true and that it works and it produces extraordinary results. So, good morning, Lorna. Hello. You missed my diatribe, which is just as well on some level, I'm guessing. So, right, so here's the story that of the life healing that I wanted to tell you guys. When I first started with the old negative EFT, where we looked for the trauma, only ever the trauma, or what's the problem? We tap on the problem to try and find the causative event, and then tap that causative event away, as it were, put energy flow in. And if you were lucky, some people really did have the, oh my God, hallelujah experience. And these people obviously were much in love with tapping and became great ambassadors for tapping. And I was one of these people all the way back in 1998. And one of the things that kept coming up, so I have problem X, whatever the hell that problem is. And the question then is always, what's the trauma? And when that question was asked, what's the trauma? One particular incident kept coming up on different topics, all sorts of different topics. Why aren't I more successful? Why aren't I making more money? Why am I not more beautiful? Whatever the hell the question was, this trauma kept coming up. And yeah, you may laugh, but for children, traumas are traumas, and we don't argue. And a person who was beaten with a small stick doesn't get any brownie points compared to a person who was just beaten with a fist. It's, we have trauma's trauma, So here we have a 5-year-old aspect of mine at a fairground at night, which was very, very exciting for the aspect, who did not get to go out much, ever. With her parents, she was there with her parents. And there was a lottery booth and a ticket was purchased. And the guy from the lottery booth took the ticket and said, oh, you've won a typewriter, to the 5-year-old child. And the 5-year-old child had a total star experience at that moment. But when it came to hand over the prize, instead of the typewriter, it was a pencil. And for the aspect, the world just collapsed. Totally collapsed. I mean, she'd had such high hopes that one of her major problems, which was not being able to do nice, tidy handwriting, and particularly not being able on like a 0 or an O to close the loop so that it would meet at the top. And she got hit for that time and time and time again. It was a real problem because she liked writing. She liked writing stories and writing things down. She thought it was magical. So the idea of a typewriter where every letter would always be perfect was absolute hallelujah for this little child. When she was then presented with a pencil, she absolutely it was a freak out of epic proportions. And this freak out came up when we kept asking about the trauma. And I tapped and I tapped and I tapped and I tapped, and it would not release. Or it would come up again in a different context a week later. And I tapped and I tapped and I tapped, and it just did never resolve. It never resolved. So eventually I just got tired of it. I don't know if you have some trauma you've tapped your fingers bloody on and it keeps coming up, but you just get tired of it. That's the whole thing with cognitive behavioral therapy, isn't it? You just get bored with it, tired with it. It doesn't heal. Just sort of learn to live with it eventually because you just can't be asked anymore. Yeah. And so somebody on Star Matrix Forever group, that's the group for the people who've completed the Star Matrix Masters course, has a thing going on about writing at the moment. And there that memory came back up again that I tapped on so many times. But this time it switched back, just backwards, just step backwards to that moment when the whole universe expanded. And there was this, not just the possibility of perfect writing, but the reality of it. I can do perfect writing. That star moment was immense. It was universe expanding. It was glorious. It was like an enlightenment event. And that was the important event. That sad little man with his joke with the pencil, this is nothing. Nothing at all. Yeah, that was the trauma, sure. But that wasn't what made my life. What made my life was the love of writing and the love of perfect writing. A little bit later after this pencil thing, an aspect learned that if you turn a fountain pen upside down, you're actually producing writing like calligraphy, and it looks really neat. And then an aspect, when she was a teenager, really pushed the parents like nobody's business for a professional typing course. And there was the perfect writing. And it was beautiful. And to this day, I consider my ability to touch type as a superpower. I can touch type so fast, and I can let my ideas flow from the energy mind through my conscious mind into my mobs, into my fingers. And it's the star event that connects all those dots on my timeline, where you're going, oh, that's why. Now I understand. There's that theme of the perfect writing flowing through all these star aspects. And I'm like, oh, wow. And this trauma thing is just so insignificant. It was never the answer. It was the answer to the question, what trauma is related to this problem? But it wasn't the answer to what's really going on here in the energy system, what the problem really is. Now, as I was writing this up for Star Matrix Forever yesterday, it sort of came to my awareness that the reason the little aspect had so much trouble with writing was because she was probably left-handed. I still do a lot of sort of things like trying to mount bicycles and motorbikes and horses from the wrong side. According to other people, I sew the wrong way around when I'm sewing, and I also iron the wrong way around when I'm ironing. And there's sort of other weird things, like I'm very ambidextrous and I can write backwards and upside down with both hands. So it is possible that this left-right-handed business and the difficulty with the writing for the young aspect is actually related to possibly having been left-handed naturally. And this whole thing, the perfect writing thing, is just sort of a link to that. But again, looking at this from the star matrix angle, I am not thinking about all the beatings I got for doing things with the wrong hands in the wrong way. There'd be lots of them. What I'm thinking about is the interesting thing that actually, because of that, I can do upside down writing, mirror writing fluently. I can write backwards. That's really groovy because you really need to know what is at the end of the sentence before you start writing it down. And all sorts of other interesting, sort of little mini superpowers that I have that other people find difficult. So it's really kind of groovy. And as you're thinking about the groovy things and the cool things, it's the trauma recedes further and further away. It becomes less and less significant. And the real story of your life actually becomes revealed. Loads of things go click, 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 click. That makes sense. And that makes sense. And that's why I do it like that. And that is how it's connected. And this is why I still love the concept of perfect writing and perfect communication. Okay, you can strive for that till the end of your days, but it's what a lovely goal to have. So if I was to, tap on it now, I would use this power positive perfect writing. In fact, I am might do a video on that just for fun, just to see what happens in real time when I do that. Power of the positives. Wow, So yeah, hi. Good morning, Lorna. Good morning, Satinda, and hello, Sandra. So yeah, this is a fascinating thing. And I invite you to try this. I invite you strongly to try this. I know it's heresy in the trauma-obsessed world to ask people about thinking about positive things, positive memories about their parents for a change, just for a change, for a bit of heart healing, for a bit of anything. Positive memories of themselves, positive school memories. My God, back in the day when all there was trauma, I once posted sort of a question like, do you have any school memory traumas? And the flood of school trauma. What would happen if we asked people, right now, okay, for 1 week, I want you to write down positive school memories, happy school memories. That is going to tell you more about who you actually really are, what you like, what turns you on, what floats your boat, what drives your motor into action, what excites you, what is truly you at the end of the day. And I'm just gathering in the harvest. We need to all start gathering in the harvest of the positive experiences of our lifetimes. That's where the real information we need is to be found. That is the only place where the real information about us is to be found. And my energy mind just sent me sort of a double screen of that child at the fairground I was telling you about. Might have been 3 years old, something 3 to 4 years, 3, I think, so young. You got 2 children there. One is the one that has this desire for perfect writing, not just as a result of being beaten up. That's a sort of a side effect. But she herself was really frustrated that she couldn't do the perfect writing because she wanted to do perfect writing. It wasn't about them yelling and shouting and hitting at all. She wanted that, even as a small child. And this one child here standing there and having this enlightenment experience of the possibility and potential of perfect writing, with the colored lights of the fairground and all the sounds going on. That's that one child. Then we have the other child after the pencil is given. And this child is howling, it's screaming, it's crying its eyes out, heartbroken, on the floor, thrashing about. Now, I'm going to ask you seriously now, which one's the real child? Which one is the child that is important? You can destroy anybody easily enough. which information is more important from this child who's having the enlightenment experience or the child that's screaming and crying on the floor? This is my story of the trampled lilies in the forest. If you really want to know your true nature, your true path, your true mission, your true abilities, you've got to look at your star memories. And the moment you start doing that, you will end that nightmare of trauma, at least for yourself. And you'll find this totally different space in which we have different definitions what it means to be a human being, where we have different ideas for healing all sorts of things, where old traumas don't have to be tapped on and howled over in therapy for hours and hours and hours on end, over and over and over again, leaving you exhausted and, oh man, but where instead you might go to somebody who does Star Matrix and say, okay, I've got a problem at work, nobody's respecting me. And this person says, okay, let's first of all find out what you mean by respect. Tell me about a memory where people really respected you. Oh, they never have. It's never happened. Yes, it has. Just, breathe in the heart position for a moment. Let a memory come to you, dear energy mind. First time this person has been, as soon as you start, just a few star memories, they just come so easily. There's no more digging involved. There's no reversals. They just hop into your mind, And I asked the question, and my energy mind does not understand rhetorical questions. So I got a thing where like 120 people walked by the side of a train to say farewell to me at a summer camp a long time ago. That was a lot of respect from a lot of people. Wow. Okay. Yeah. So then we have that first of all, the counter evidence right there. Boom. Yes, you have been respected. You can no longer say you've never been respected. Can't say that. Sorry. There, ladies and gentlemen of the jury and all others, there's the evidence this person has been respected. 1 equals infinity for the more advanced amongst us. Next, how can this experience help you now? That's the big question. How can this energy, this experience help you now? And that you discuss with your client, and the client comes away from this empowered without a single tear being cried, with new ideas, with being enabled, empowered to think for themselves for a change, to think for themselves for a change. Oh my. And it's beautiful. And it's not as the person starts remembering something, the positive thing starts to flow. He's laughing, the therapist is laughing. They're both delighted. The therapist might share a story of their own. And it is a completely different way of even thinking about therapy as well as everything else. And it is absolutely 100% what I believe the world needs right now. More empowered people thinking for themselves for a change. More empowered people thinking for themselves for a change. Yes, that's what I want. That's what I've always wanted. Always wanted that. More empowered people thinking for themselves for a change. One of us changes, we all change. Okay, let's have a look at the comments here, what we got. Ilka says, yes, I absolutely believe and know that Star Matrix ends trauma. What a big gift for this world. See, of course, we're just going to get drowned in shit for saying this. That trauma isn't what we should be looking at. It really isn't. It really isn't. I cannot believe the amount of resources and money and time and intention, and even good intentions, have been wasted in the last 120 years by this trauma obsession that has crept into everything, into everywhere, into every bit of thinking, into structures, into the aforementioned, into philosophy, the critical race theory stuff, critical gender theory. All of that stuff is all a direct result of this total unbalanced, myopic, psychotic focus on trauma, because trauma is all there is. Trauma is everything. Trauma explains everything. God damn it. And it isn't, it doesn't, it's wrong, it's dangerous. It has shown how damaging that is to people. You know, I did try an olive branch. I created event psychology, which has 4 different events, just to, you know, put trauma into some level of perspective. But people are so brainwashed, they can't even get their heads around that just yet. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, because Star Matrix is a people method. It's a person method. It's a one person who hasn't been to university, who hasn't been brainwashed, who hasn't studied statistics, standing next to somebody else, waiting for the train. And it's 2 hours late. And they're saying to the person next door, you know, this is getting really boring. I need some entertainment. Tell me a story. Tell me, where did you go on holiday last? Best holiday you've been on recently. Tell me, where did you go? And this other person will be astonished, and then they'll start to think, and they say, oh, well, yes, I went to Ibiza last year. It's really good. Went with a couple of girlfriends. And then we are having a communication, a conversation, and energy is rising. And the 2 people are starting to, their energy systems come into sync, which leads to better communication. It leads to smiles. It leads to natural rapport, rather than this silly monkey business from NLP of mirroring what the other person does, or noticing how they breathe and then try and breathe the same way to create rapport. Just ask them about happy memory, about a good joke they've heard, about, you know, something they love in their lives. If you see that they go covered in cat hair, ask them about their cat. Anything positive. Anything positive, but particularly star memories. Star memories are fantastic. Luca said, thanks for Star Matrix. Yes, I thank the universe literally every day. Is it for, this is a good question. Hello, Wendy. Is it for everything, Sylvia? What about abuse? Oh, what about abuse? Yeah, that's one of my favorite things. Okay, so we have, I saw somebody the other day, an American child actor who'd been abused significantly in the Hollywood system. Sexually abused as a child on set by many people in different ways. And this guy is a mess. He's been in therapy for 40 years now. He is angry. He's not successful anymore. He is bitter. He is twisted. He's had a huge lifetime battle with every drug under the sun. He's barely holding it together. He's 50 years old and he looks like he's 90. So what about the abuse? Shall he dig some more in his trauma? Shall he go to some more group sessions and dig with other people in trauma? Or shall we say, okay, that didn't bloody work, then did it? None of these methods have helped you. How many times have you been in rehab now? It's not working. Is anybody going to wake up to the fact that this isn't working for these people long term? It's not working. Right, mate. Right. So you were on the set of whatever. I'm just going to pick a movie out of the hat. It's not, it wasn't that movie. Okay, call it. You were on the set of Star Warriors with these famous actors who weren't child abusers. And there must have been moments where it was fun. Can you remember a time when it was fun? And there you can see how this question being asked, there's this whole the pathways aren't even there in the brain for him to travel to something happy from his childhood or from his experiences there on these movie sets. And he's like, oh. And then he goes, yeah, oh, I just remembered something. I was sitting all alone in the cafe area where the tables are, where you sat down to have a cup of coffee. And this famous actress came over and she sees me sitting there, and she sat next to me and she told me some funny stories. And I thought she was really nice. Cool. Do you have any other good memories that we could talk about for a change? So that's about abuse. That's about abuse. Now, I've been with the Hollywood actor. I've been brutal. I've gone straight into the actual time frame during the filming of the movie where the abuse actually happened. But if you have somebody who's been significantly abused and now has real problems, drug abuse and self-mutilation and terrible relationship problems and all sorts of real serious problems. I am not talking about the lady housewives who go every weekend to another Mind Body Spirit show and training. I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about like real abuse victims, as in that with their lives, they're proving that there's some serious shit gone down in their lives. Those are the very ones where you have to ask about a good memory. Any good memory will do. Anything that makes you happy when you think about it. And there they'll say something like, yeah, so the sun come up, it's beautiful, felt myself connected to the universe. And as soon as they start doing that, you feel that energy rising, this other person revealing themselves to you, not this beaten down trauma victim that they've become used to inhabiting, if you will, with all the therapy and all the trauma focus, but this other person, a person who can see the beauty, who can see the magic, who can connect with the universe, who can literally sense, see God in a fern leaf. That person. That is them. That is them far more than, as I'm saying, with the children, two children in my example. There's this child who just had this massive enlightenment experience about perfect writing. And then we've got a child screaming and crying on the floor because somebody treated her cruelly. I mean, which one is the truth about that person? The real truth at the end of the day. What's important here? This one here, the one who saw the sun come up and has the capacity to know that the universe is magical. And if we play our cards right as human beings, if we learn how to use our hardware, just the hardware, and then also the energy system, correctly for a change, we can learn something about how people really work, what they really need, and how they can really heal at the end of the day. Perhaps there comes a day when some abused person wants to start talking about their abuse. I don't mind talking about my abuse. It's not a trauma anymore. It's not important. I don't know if that's to be understood. It is what is amazing is the resilience of the aspects, the capabilities of the aspects, the enormous, enormous treasures and riches and wisdom that these aspects showed and had access to. That's what's important, not the trauma. As what the planes crash survivors say when their life flashes before their eyes, there is no trauma flashing. There's only the experiences of love and enlightenment and beauty and joy and dancing. That's what's important. And when we guide people's attention towards that, that does not make them stupid. It has not made me stupid or overconfident or arrogant or deluded in any shape or form. It has absolutely 100% increased my understanding, my clarity of who I am, what my message is. And it has also given me a lot more courage than I had before I started this, to actually come out of the closet and say it and make a video, an official video that very few people are watching at the moment, but you never know. You never know. And to call officially to end the nightmare of trauma. And do it now. Do it now. End it now. Stop thinking about the trauma. Start thinking about the star moments. Do it for a week, a month, and notice how your attitude to the world changes, your attitude to yourself, your attitude to the future, and absolutely your attitude to the past. Wow. So I say, my aspects tapped their fingers bloody on that pencil incident. It was never about that. It was always about the perfect writing. Now, if somebody doesn't get what I just said, or doesn't understand this, fair enough. I wish you luck and on your way, because you really do need to have a sense of what I've just said to really understand it. It's not just the words I'm saying. This goes way beyond the words I'm saying. Ah. Oh, I've got people thanking me. That's really nice. Thank you very much. I love you guys. And I am really now in a place where I'm like really wanting more people to hear this. More people need to hear this. Young people need to hear this before it gets to 45 years of misery. I believe that when you're less stressed, and it doesn't matter if you're a child or an adult here, that if you're on top and you're pretty high on the energy chart, I believe that you have more of a hope to even actually avoiding abuse. That you actually have more of a chance to pick up that sense from people that there's something wrong here, there's something not right, and to make your exit. And to listen to that and to trust in that. People think children are so stupid. They're not. Man, I've talked to so many child abuse survivors about their real experiences. Giving them that space to really tell me what really happened for a change. Because you're not allowed to do that in classical therapy. You're not allowed to do that. You have to spit out a certain script, which is also horrendous, but there we have it. And yeah, so lost my thread there. But getting to know who we are and healing our idea of what our life has been like up to this point is exactly what we need to go into the future. It's absolutely 100% what we need to go into the future. When the civilization around us changes weirdly, I listened to a gentleman the other day who is fairly young, but he was living in the Soviet Union towards the end of the old Soviet Union, where the state looked after everything, the chaos of perestroika, and then the new systems coming in afterwards. And he lived through these things, where literally overnight everything changed. And he said that it's, always the cream that floats to the top. There are always people who can make it work for them, and there's always people who are being just destroyed by the changes. And he was looking at that as a young man, and he thought, I'm not going to be one of those people who's going to be destroyed by changes. I'm going to look around and take advantage of the opportunities that present themselves to me. Yeah, and one of these opportunities included just not living in Russia anymore at some point. But that's not the point I'm trying to make here. Is in order to not just deal with, but thrive in the coming future, whatever the hell the coming future is going to be, and including a zombie apocalypse. To be strong, to be bright, to be cheerful, and to be intelligent is going to be a lifesaver. Huh. Yeah, that's going to be a lifesaver. It's a total bonus. So whichever way you look at it, And here's one other thing that I really need to say. With the chaos that's existing at the moment and the problems that people are having, negative EFT is just not going to be good enough anymore. It's too many problems, too many fears, too many uncertainties, and daily shifting madness and all sorts. It's just not good enough. We need a totally different approach to this. And I know no disrespect to negative EFT, has helped lots and lots of people. But even positive EFT, with all the stress and chaos, we haven't got time to stand there tapping for half an hour for something happy. Star Matrix is different. It's with you all the time. It's instant. And of course, you have this whole new self-concept, this new self-idea of your capabilities. You're much less likely to freak out. This I really have noticed. Okay, guys. Wow, this is the longest live stream I've ever done. Thank you so much for being here with me. I really need to say farewell, but this is such an important topic to me. We need to end the nightmare of trauma. I really mean that. I really, really mean that. We need to reconnect, first of all, with ourselves, who we really are. Then we need to reconnect with our loved ones and our families. Then we need to reconnect with our ancestors. And then we need to reconnect with humanity itself. And that is totally a survival thing for all of us individually, for humanity, for everyone. We need to tell people to stop it with the trauma and start remembering who you really are. And for the older ones amongst us to really start gathering the treasures of the riches of our real life's experiences. Because the whole trauma thing is actually a crazy lie. It's just a crazy lie. Cool. All right. Next weekend is the Star Matrix Summit. Please come along. Please listen to the interviews. They're fascinating. And I know they will stimulate in you also all sorts of things. Insights, memories of your star memories of your own, more understanding of how that works when people do it, what it does for them, what you can use it for, examples, wonderful star stories, which I love particularly. And so, yeah, please come along to the Star Matrix Summit, guys. Really, it's a wonderful thing. And, yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited about the future. We have something here that can take us into the future the best possible way we can go there. And that is strong, loving, and intelligent. So important. Intelligence, the first thing that goes out the window when people start getting stress crazy. Whew. Okay, guys, please, I tell you what, let's join me in a round of applause for humanity. People really are trying. They are trying. They have good intentions. They are trying to create a better world. And I believe that with Star Matrix, we have a tool where we can help them. It's a real shovel we can give them and say, right, so this is how to know what a good world feels like, sounds like, and looks like, what the major factors in that are, and learn something how to make, and from there we can learn to make a better world, we can make better systems, and we can make better decisions, each one and every one of us. So I'm excited about that. All right. Thank you very much for being here with me. That was a full hour. Lots of love to you. Please share this video. Please leave a comment on YouTube so that perhaps another person might see it by accident. Please let people know about this. We are here. Your happiness matters. And a huge part of that is to end the nightmare of trauma for all of us forever. Thank you very much. Lots of love, and I look forward to seeing you again next week for Sunday Live with Sylvia. Bye for now.